was this question which was, which you touched on, but since we were in a hurry last weekend, you seem to have applied the new universe's time. So some questions were not answered lengthily, as you always do. So is there any advice to give to new friends or students who are experiencing this vital body energy surging in them, which is called the kundalini? Many could have these signs of awakening. You know, it is triggered by doing things like we are doing, you see, and some people may think that we become insane because of some physical trauma that one may go through, taking at times you become an acrobat. You don't even know how the bodily movements and postures come about. So what advice can you give to new students who are going through this awakening in the body, which is linked to what is popularly known as the serpent fire, as it moves from the base chakra to the top of the head? Because as we chant the new song is actually awakening these chakras and toning them and aligning them, and for this grand experience to take place within the body. So, what if one is experiencing this kind of symptoms?
Well, first you said it was a grand experience, then you said it was a symptom. Which is it?
Yeah, I just say it's a grand, I could call it a grand physical experience, because it concerns the physical body, and it's undergoing some transformations, especially when if you sing the no at times in certain, I realize, in certain combination or certain, well, some length of time, you know, this could manifest as evidence of blockages being cleared, resistance in the body, accumulated tension and all the like. Some things that you've agreed to programming and is breaking them down, or something like that. I don't know. I think you should have more to say on this.
I get the idea. Okay, so as I've said in the past, you know, the spiritual past and all that, which all of us have been through in some way, one way or another. You refer to the chakras and these centers and the kundalini and all these things, okay, and the postulates and etc. And the new you has nothing to do with that. But at the same time, it just depends upon what the person has come through this lifetime, and especially in last lifetimes that are still ingrained within the person. Now, I've seen this to where people were into the voodoo, the magic, the reptilians from past lifetimes that still affected them this lifetime because they still have the tap lines in them. And so as the new you comes in, of course, it agitates that in a particular way. So the new you has nothing to do with even the third eye and the crown chakra and all these things, the kundalini, whatever. These are old ideas, okay? It is all about your real awareness. Now, as the new you comes in, again, it's going to affect things in certain ways, but here's the idea. And that is that just like people that would astral project or something, the boys on the real side are basically, when you really want to be, educated by them realistically, then they will stop all that. There won't be any of that. Again, it just depends upon your intent also. You have to have your own intent and everything in line. Anyhow, okay, so we're back to the basic idea was what you talked about, Charles, the chakras and all that. And so the new you, this is the best part of it. We've already went through all that. And so we're in that position now to, what is being presented here is not about any of those things. And again, many people carry these from past lives. They're affected, and they're still looking at the old traditional ideas, the ancient wisdom, etc. Well, again, this stuff doesn't work. It's old newspapers. You don't need any of it, except as if you want it as a reference, fine. But that's all it is. It's not a reality. The isness life is now is the reality. That's the new you. It's clean cut. It's direct. It's up to the individual if they choose to activate these things. But again, you're activating situations. It's like Pandora's box that is not beneficial. So again, none of these things are needed. All that is needed is to recognize the isness, and everything will be shown to you to where you see it and you can stand in it, so you won't need any of these secondary things anymore. That's how real it is. This is the new nowness of the all is. We don't need any of these things. We relate to them in a particular way, yes, as references, but they're not realities, and they're not the all aliveness, the is. These are particulars in the body, and they are experiences like astral projection, remote viewing, etc. Fine. Okay, these are the thrills people have, but it has nothing to do with the isness. And if a person wants complete and real freedom, well, they're not going to get it through the release of the kundalini and their chakras and just even projecting out of themselves. Fine, just like the experiences that you explain. Those are little trips in creation. That's not real freedom. That's not recognizing the is. The experiences are very valid, but at the same time, you need to recognize and see what's behind the experience, not just the experience itself. The world is full of experiences. David Icke is out there talking about reptilians. Great. That's one-dimensional, information. That's as far as it goes. That is not the ultimate here because, again, it has nothing to do with the isness. So these things that you're referring to, no, they're very elementary, and for the most part, we've went through them, and they will probably keep you in trouble. They'll get you in trouble, and they'll start to be infections if they come first before the isness, you see? So this is an endless journey to continually, in every nowness, recognize this isness, and it supersedes everything. But you must decide with all your intent, 100%, that it comes first in your life. Yes, you will have your personal life, okay? And eventually it will disappear. It's going to disappear anyhow. But if that comes first, then what you're doing is you're just placing yourself into future lifetimes to where you'll forget this again, and you'll be struggling to find it and recognize it. You got to learn to hang on to it, or you don't. That's your choice. Nobody can do it for you. The boys cannot. You see, so this is us talking to the world. Is the world listening? Do they get it? And even when we're talking their language, they still don't get it. So again, it's a big journey.
What you've said is resonates with me. Since one should not even have a thought about this, there could be some past life unfinished business with this kind of thing, where the new song triggers it, does some cleansing for the individual to be free of it finally, something like that. Because I would say that I experienced some of this kind of involuntary movements of the body while singing the new song, Uh, and if I were in company, people would think that something is wrong with me. And the actions come spontaneously, uninvited, especially when you're doing the no song in a certain position. Maybe lying, especially when lying on the bed and just relaxed, then it becomes so violent. This kind of movement, this kind of postures that take place, that occur uninvited, and you don't know what to make of it, and just let it be to run its course. So is it that one is going downwards? I don't know whether downwards or upwards. I can't understand. But from your explanation, it seems it's a minus, not a plus.
Well, let's do this. Okay, again, when you just kind of put the up and down and the minus and plus thing aside, sure, we see that there's a benefit to things. That's a plus, okay? But at the same time, learn to focus on the isness, okay? Because that's a completeness. See, life already is complete. Again, like I've said many times, there's nothing you can add to it or take from it. It already is what it is. And so as you start to recognize this and start to put aside the old ideas of good and bad, right and wrong, up and down and whatever, you start to see that they're just illusions. They're just blind ideas and your idea of creation and all that. I too have been affected by these things. When I was younger and had my daughter around, actually when she was about 5 or 6, she was amazing because she was actually a higher initiate in the corporation. Then she came around this lifetime because she wanted to be with us. But anyhow, I was going through some vertigo and whatever, and she actually helped me with this. And she goes, "Oh, yeah, that's from a past life that you dealt with that." And I've dealt with this recently too. So again, I am affected by certain things too that I have to deal with because of where we're at in creation. We're affected by everything. See, we are the effect of everything here. And this is where eventually with the new you and recognizing your real awareness completely, that you get beyond these effects because they're not what they seem to be. But see, we've actually set up and created the influence to where we are, affected by these things. So now we're consciously seeing what's taking place. That just becomes the difference. So again, when Paul created the God worlds chart, it was the lower worlds and the higher worlds and all that. Again, that was elementary. That was elementary school. These are the basics that you learn. But after a while, just like James Bond going through his training, he went through the elementary stuff, but then he graduated into the stuff to where the elementary stuff doesn't work anymore, you see? So again, you graduate yourself. You decide how to graduate yourself. And so I understand this isness reality. It's like people look at it and I see what they're seeing. It's like, because they're looking through so many layers of ideas in their consciousness, they can't see it. And so, that is the burden of each person. And those layers, those things that are decided upon, whether it be mainly emotionally, everybody attaches emotions to everything. We all do. We've been taught that. Here, love is feeling. But feeling is really feeling. It's not love. And so again, for the most part, people get together with their feelings and emotional attachments, and they're thinking it's love. So again, everything is kind of misconstrued to where it is what it is, and you got to figure it out. And so to recognize the isness, the best example is the sun shining. There's no attitudes or ideas or beliefs with it, happiness or sadness or whatever. Those things don't exist with the sun shining. Again, imagine yourself as the sun shining. Do you have these attitudes? Well, if you bring the personal self in, you do. you decide to do that. But if you don't and see it for what it is, because it's a good representation of the isness life is, but that's just the first step. That doesn't show you everything. It's a bigger picture. So again, we decide our experiences. We decide the aberrations that we want to continue to carry or not. Each person decides that. So, it gets to be very, very interesting, as you're going through these things and the effect, etc. So to come from a disorder, a deception, where things are just all arrayed funny, which they really are, but again, the personal person here has decided that these things make sense and they're okay. And so again, we have cars that pollute the air and poison us, and this is like, okay, it's really cool to drive your BMW and your Mercedes. This is a cool thing, you see. It's not about polluting the air, it's about being cool and having the thrill, you see. So that's the world and dimension that has been created here, and then to see this isness for what it is, that's a huge step. And so again, you have to be the risk taker. You have to decide to do that, and to, little by little, you supplement and to figure it out. But yes, each one of us must figure it out for ourselves, or we stay in the higher, the lower, the this, the that, always chasing, trying to be good or better or make more money, always chasing things in our mind and setting up more ideas that really equal nothing but more lifetimes in the house of mirrors. It really is. But again, on the other hand, on the other flip side of the coin, creation is very necessary to help you recognize this isness. And that's the part you got to figure out. So look at the world today and what's been figured out. Look at your computer and whatever. When you got that computer, when you first got it, or your cell phone, it's not going to do it for you. You got to figure it out. And just like you got to figure yourself out according to this reality, do you want it? And most people give up. They just figure, oh, there's no such thing, or they knew you didn't work, or whatever. Again, it's a lot getting through themselves. And it's just like taking a course in college. It's not just the first day or the first week. It's going to be maybe 5, 10, 15 years in college before you even start to figure out something. And so this is dealing with the whole of life, and people think, oh, gee, well, if I don't do it in 2 weeks, forget it. No, this could take you 1,000 years to finally figure this out. But once you see the value, then it's worth it. But you decide. Yes, and you've already gone through thousands and millions of lifetimes just to get here, just to have this opportunity right now, even though you don't remember it, and you're dragging a lot of stuff with you. So this is where you're confronting yourself, you see. And so I just wrote a group called Crossing the River. And so now you're at that point to where there's a raging river in front of you, and across the river you see the boys standing there waving you on. And now the river represents yourself. You have to get across yourself. And it looks scary because of everything you've created. You don't realize all of a sudden you've created this river of stuff. And now let's see if you're the real risk taker to cross it to get to the other side. But once you do, okay, now the real journey starts. But you got to get through yourself first. So yes, Charles, all these things, these Skype groups are a preparation for people to get ready to face themselves and to figure things out, because each person has to. So just like in school, the teacher gives the homework assignment. If you do the homework, fine. If you don't, you don't. It's your choice. You decide, or not even to attend. But this is an endless journey, and it only gets better. But you got to decide, and you've got to look at your intent along with it. So